Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzales, joined today by Mr. Stu Burguiere.
Hi.
Chad Prather.
Hello.
Notice I didn't call you a Mister.
Hi.
You're not formal enough.
I'm fluid. Yeah.
And Mr. Andrew Heaton.
Good day.
I look at you and I feel like you need a British accent.
I agree. I vacation in Scotland, and when I come back, I'm told that I'm just insufferably pretentious. So maybe if I keep going over there, my accent will.
Then, Andrew.
Exactly. Just the rest of the time, I'm delightful.
All right, Stu. Top story.
The Democratic nomination. There are now 15 people not in the race, so everyone else is in. But we had a couple of developments on that front today.
All right, Chad.
America's most favorite and expensive vacation place, Hawaii. They want to take your guns.
Oh, good,
shocking.
good. What could possibly go wrong? Andrew.
I have a legislative agenda that I wish Congress would embark upon.
Okay, a lot to get into.
That was really pretentious. Really pretentious.
A lot to get into,
said
but
it
first we
Scottish.
want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. American Financing is not for people like Stu, who really want to do just really dumb, ridiculous loans.
Why do you always insult everyone you're talking about? This is like
Sarah,
your thing.
It's my thing. You know, everyone has to have a thing. That's mine.
I'm a financially savvy investor that doesn't know where to go. Would I apply to this?
You should.
Huh.
Yeah,
should.
very good work there. They're not pretentious at all on that one. I actually dealt with American Financing, and they're great. I mean, you think of who you're going to go to get a loan. This is your biggest investment you're ever going to have in your life. You better have somebody you can trust who can walk you through all the options, and somebody who's going to be in business tomorrow when you call them back and ask them a question. And then Glenn, when he first started with American Financing, they wanted to come on the air on the radio show several years ago before the financial collapse, and Glenn basically turned them down, like several other places he turned down. And he said, you know what, if we have some problems in the economy, you call me back, and then we'll talk about it. Well, the other people who wanted to come on, they didn't call back because they were out of business. But American Financing wasn't. They're people who really know the business. They're based on salary, so not commissions. They're not trying to push certain types of loans on you. They're great. They're great people. And even if it's just like with me, they actually wound up talking me into taking a different loan, not the one that they offered. I'm sure it wasn't anything personal. Now that I think about it, it doesn't sound so great. But they said, look, if you really want that type of loan, we're not going to do that type of loan. It's a little too risky for our portfolio, but we want you to try this one and go for it if you can get it. They actually talked themselves out of business with me. This is the type of people they are. They're great to deal with, and I definitely encourage you to give them a shot.
So you can go to AmericanFinancing.net, or you can call 800-906-2440. Stu, top story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's go with Sherrod Brown. If you guys, I don't know how familiar you are with him. Of course, Ohio senator.
I wasn't. Actually, the only other guy named Sherrod is a black guy, and I looked at the pictures of him today, and I was like, that guy's white? I had no idea. I had no idea who he was.
Super
I had
racist.
Super
Apparently so. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I didn't know he was white.
So he was kind of seen as a potential entry into the sort of moderate path. I mean, the guy is not a moderate in my book by any means. He's got an F from the NRA. He has every single conservative organization that can give him a grade just writes down F before the year even starts. He's essentially that guy, but he's got a little rumpled suit, Midwestern charm, I guess, to him. He does very well in Ohio, purple state, and he's won several elections there by large margins. So the idea of him coming in and maybe being someone who could compete in those areas that Trump was able to take, that region is something that the Democrats are very scared about. It's why they're scared of Kamala Harris getting the nomination, because maybe she's not going to be able to appeal to Michigan like a Sherrod Brown might be able to. But he's not going to run. He just decided not to jump in. I mean, there are so many people. Legitimately, I think it's 14 active that are in. We saw Bloomberg as well say he's not going to come in. But we still have a couple of the big ones left here. Joe Biden has started now to make phone calls. He can't hire anybody yet because you have to announce your candidacy before you start hiring people. But he's made the calls of, hey, if I were to run, would you be on board? So he's making those calls. It's reported in several early states that that's going on. So he's expected any day now to announce. And the last big one that people have been talking about is Beto, our friend.
Excuse me. I'd allow you the chance to correct yourself.
Robert Francis O'Rourke.
Thank you.
Or as I like to call him, Bob Frank O'Rourke. I'm on a slightly different name basis with him. He's still a question mark. I think people think he's going to be jumping in.
He's making a big announcement soon, right?
Yes.
Yes, it does seem that he is. And he's been fundraising as if he's like, what if I were to make pot legal everywhere? Would you be interested in that? Question mark fundraiser link? So it does seem like he's getting in. I thought the Beto was kind of interesting, and CNN did a really interesting piece from Harry Anton, he's great when it comes to polls, looking a little bit deeper look at Beto, because my impression, even being in here in Texas, when it comes to Bob Frank O'Rourke, is that he had kind of a special run. I mean, he raised a ton of money. Mm-hmm. He was very competitive with Ted Cruz in Texas, which shouldn't happen. And he got so much publicity, and it kind of plays into this mythology that this guy is kind of unbeatable, or there's something really special, even though the only race I've ever heard of him was a loss. But that kind of special like energy. Maybe he's a guy that can win a Texas in a presidential election. Well, they looked into the numbers, and they're a lot less impressive than I actually realized. Yeah, in reality, I would say it's more like just Texas is trending a little bit more blue than it used to, and also the environment of the time being favorable for Democrats. Let me give you some of these measures. I thought it was pretty interesting. Now, this is statewide races. Bob Frank O'Rourke was able to, he lost to Ted Cruz by 3 points. However, look around the state of the other races. All House candidates combined lost by 3 points as well. It just disappeared, so I don't know if it's on there or not. All House candidates announced disappearing again. Now it's back on.
You.
Now it's -3. Okay, so -3. That's all House candidates. And is there anything else on this one? I think this may have gotten a little. There we go. Attorney General. Okay, so the Attorney General, I think he's got a little out of order.
It's a British Attorney General.
Yes, Attorney General.
I like that. Bannister, yeah.
But look at this. These are the other statewide races here. The Attorney General lost by 4, and the Lieutenant General lost by 5 for the Democrats. So yes, he slightly outperformed the other 2 Democrats that were there, but there was nothing completely special about this. The only one that ever really got blown out was the Governor, Lupe, who got destroyed by, I think it was 11. Now, this is the Democratic Senate candidates versus the Democratic House. If you think of it this way, everyone's voting for the Senate race at the same time, but at the same time, they're voting for their individual House races. So what's the popular vote of people voting for House races? Bob Frank O'Rourke, 3 points better than the Democratic House in his state. But look at Amy Klobuchar, who is another person running, 13-point advantage. Much more impressive in Minnesota than Bob Frank was here in Texas. And how about versus Hillary's performance? Now, Bob Frank O'Rourke outperformed Hillary by about 6 points in Texas. However, the median Democratic senator across the country outperformed Hillary by also 6 points. No advantage whatsoever. And in fact, Amy Klobuchar, again, to give you her 23 points, outperformed Hillary Clinton.
So we would have had President Klobuchar.
Klobuchar is my girl.
Apparently, everyone's going to jump on that bandwagon instead of Beto. It's interesting because I will say, even being here and not being a fan of our friend Bob Frank, I would still have said that those numbers would have looked a lot more impressive. I mean, it did seem like he made a big impact. The one place he really made an impact was with money. He brought a lot of money in, but in a way that makes those numbers more depressing. With all the money that he had, he still didn't even outperform a generic Senate candidate for the Democrats across the country. And that might be one of those things that, when you're picking, if you're some high-level advisor in the Democratic Party, maybe you're going towards Amy or Biden or somebody else instead of Beto.
I think the reason that they were so excited about Beto, and there is a Beto frenzy, I think the reason is that there was this progressive impulse to be like, take that, Texas. That's right, conservatives in Texas. We got your homeland.
Yeah, so he got a bunch of money from California and New York.
But like Klobuchar and several people, Arizona and New Mexico did just as well or equally or better. And so I think that's going on. What I think is going to be interesting to watch is what he's going to do when he announces. I assume he's going to announce. Although I think a smart play for him, I'm going to get, if I were a Beto, this is what I would do.
You were a Beto man?
If I were a Beto man, I would get up there and go, I am not running for president. I want to encourage Joe Biden to run for president, and I'm already fundraising for him. Swoop in as his VP nominee, and then be president 8 years from now. I think you could pull that off.
I think a couple months ago, I said I think it's going to be a Biden-Beto ticket.
I think I think that would be the smart move. I don't think it's what he's going to do, though, because I think when you have, the whole imperial circus going, you're a god.
Yeah.
You're a god.
Look at this Biden Beto chief of staff already in the making, and I promise you, Klobuchar's already calling him to run the campaign. This is ridiculous. You can't argue with the numbers. I can't wait to sit back and watch this human devouring that's going to take place. But you won't see Beto perform financially in terms of campaign funding the way that he did astronomically and exponentially in Texas, because now it's spread all over the United States. It was one thing to campaign in Texas and see those kind of numbers happen with that and still have the lackluster results and the loss. But when you spread it out across America, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Chad, I want to move on to Hawaii wants to take guns.
Well, aloha. No, they do. So the federal judges in Hawaii have offered a resolution to either repeal the Second Amendment or to at least amend it. And when they want to amend it, now I want you to catch the phraseology here. They say, we want to take away, we would like to take away the individual rights to bear arms and give it more into the collective. The collective.
Good, the collective.
So, in other words, if we can't repeal the Second Amendment, let's at least make it where an individual can't have a gun, unless there's a situation where we all need the guns. And then the government will determine who the guns are distributed to. So now, Hawaii, which, let's not forget, is an island unto itself. We can't help you from the mainland. I mean, we really can't. So it's one thing if someone were to invade, let's say, Oregon, and we let them have that. But by the time they got over to Idaho, we were like, now this is our fight. So we can come to their defense. It's a little bit more difficult, for you and I in a situation where, let's say, Red Dawn happens, and Hawaii's they're sitting there isolated, they're all by themselves, and they're saying, look, we don't want guns. Now remember the folks out there who said, we're not trying to take your guns. That's not our plan at all. We just want common sense gun control. And I don't think they understand this concept of cold, dead hands and prying it from my fingers, that there are people in America who truly believe this. They will die. That Minuteman blood runs through their veins, and they're just not going to do it. It's getting close. We say this tongue-in-cheek, but I think the left believes that they have some Civil War fight in them. They just don't realize how lazy the left is, because they've already chosen the Kardashians and pizzas in the basement. And unless the battle starts at 1,
okay?
I don't admit that publicly.
I already have.
Well, good luck. So, but that's we're too lazy for Civil War. Unless the battle starts at 1, then that's just not going to happen.
I'm not showing up if it's
No, we don't do 4 a.m. raids. I am a well-armed militia. I am not military. Look at this, okay? No, but this is Civil War kind of talk. Ultimately, when you get down to that, I mean, this is some real stuff.
Well, I mean, I also think it's interesting, like maybe take a history lesson and find out why we made sure that we had the right to bear arms and that it shall not be infringed. It wasn't so that the government could tell us when it was supposed to be acceptable. It was kind of the opposite.
Kind of the opposite. I remember Reason did a video a couple of years ago about what you'd have to do. You want to repeal the Second Amendment? Or you want to get rid of guns in this country? Here you go. Here's your path. And it's like, yes, it's repealing the Second Amendment, which people think, of course, well, that's it. That's all I have to do. No. That's the very beginning of that process. Then, of course, all the states would have to say, Texas would be like, okay, now it's in our Constitution that everyone gets a right to bear arms. So that would happen. You'd have to somehow overwhelm all of those. Then you'd have to buy them back, I guess, try to get all the guns off the street. And then of the 400 million guns and the 300 million you weren't able to get back, you're now going to have to go, house to house and knock on doors of people who you told had to give you your guns and didn't? How's that going to work out for you? That is not a pretty process. I always think of this as picture the fact that the problems that the best military in the entire world has had in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, going door to door in places where they have no weapons at all in a lot of cases, and just IEDs and things like that. Can you imagine if they tried to go door to door to take 300 million guns? I mean, it's so completely absurd. Guns are so essential to our being here in this country. It really is. I mean, maybe It's different in Hawaii, and I guess maybe they just try to do it and maybe hope we didn't notice over all that water. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it's something that's actually plausible.
Andrew, last word.
Well, I'd add to that. Like, I'm probably more towards the common sense gun law than you guys. However,
yes, you make us very uncomfortable.
Yes, you are.
I'm sure I do. My silence was ominous. I'll say one of the things that I find interesting is the prospect of 3D printing long term in this conversation, because I don't think you should own like a rocket launcher. There are things that I would stop an individual from owning. There are regulations that I would put in place. When it comes to like having a Glock or something, I'm not really sure long term how you can regulate that. It would be very difficult to do.
Yeah, all mine fell in the river.
Oh, they did? That's
Every
so
gun I
sad.
had, every gun I owned fell in the river.
Wow, what a terrible tragedy.
It is. That's crazy. How does that happen?
Weird.
Back in a minute.
I know where that river is. My guns fell in that same river. The same gun river,
I
they call it.
forgot. Mine did too.
Oh my God, it's terrible news.
We'll print one up. We'll just print one up.
Becomes.
Before we get back into the conversation, want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
I was making a point, but whatever. Do your show.
Relief Factor. Relief Factor has. I know Glenn's told his story a million times. We all know because we are really tired of hearing it, quite frankly. But it is legitimate. He was in a lot of pain for a certain number of years, and you don't realize until you're in that position how much of a toll it takes on every part of your life. You're grumpy all the time because you're in pain. Your family can't stand you. I know this because I had some issues from a car accident with pinched nerves or protruding discs, all of it, and went to massage, tried drugs, the legal kind.
Yeah, LSD.
Of course.
I'm on television, so only the legal kind, okay?
If I'm grumpy and my family doesn't like me, but I'm not in pain, would these pills help me?
Any pill would help.
No.
Andrew.
anything you find on the couch, I'll take it.
Bag full of pills.
But I just could not find anything that could work on the pain, and Relief Factor has. It's 100% natural, which I love. I know these gentlemen are like, whatever, 100% natural. Okay, Sarah, where are your essential oils? But this is legit. Don't take it for my word. Don't take Glenn's word for it. Try it yourself. 3-week quick start pack. You can get it right now at relieffactor.com for $19.95. If it works for you, it changes your life. It's life-changing. And if it doesn't, you're only out $20. You can go to relieffactor.com. Andrew.
Legislative agenda. So there is a bill currently, last I checked, it's behind closed doors right now. It's in the House. But they're talking about an anti-hate bill. This is coming from the Democrats running the House, probably in relation to Representative Omar. So it's basically a way of the Democrats going, we're not anti-Semitic, and we're also not anti-Muslim. And I don't know the whole background and all of this, to be honest with you. I haven't followed the Omar story that closely. But when I first saw that headline, I went, I'm so exhausted by culture war stuff. I'm like the guy with a calculator that's like, can we talk about policy now? And I get so exhausted with it that I was almost for creating a third House of Congress that just passes resolutions, that doesn't do any actual legislating, and that could suck all of the firebrands into it. Then today, and that was going to be my topic today, was third House, right? Today I saw another bill coming through the House to make $15 minimum wage the federal law, right?
Oh, finally.
And I was like,
finally, someone's
so wait, hold on a minute. If we're not distracting these jokers with culture war stuff, then they're going to do actual stuff, which is even worse. How do we? And so the final thing I settled on is every couple of years, Congress goes, you know what America's national mammal is? The buffalo. And I went, that's what I want Congress to do. Please write your congressman. I want Congress to just focus on frivolous nonsense of the official salamander of New England, and the official American rock song, and all that stuff, and we're naming post offices after Neil Diamond. That's what I want. I just want to focus on fun, frivolous stuff, and just quit doing this other stuff. That's my suggestion for Congress.
It'd be like the Baby Gap of the the legislative branch.
Operation Baby Gap sounds
there you
like
go.
What a great Netflix special, and two, a really good legislative idea. Yeah.
Bringing up $15 minimum wage, it's funny because, as they are bringing forth this bill, we've got, a story that comes out. Whole Foods reportedly cuts worker hours to make up for its new $15 an hour wage.
Oh, weird. There were consequences. There were ultimately consequences to all of that. Who'd have thought?
I know. They just released a study saying that New York just went through the biggest drop in restaurant employment. And I was thinking, okay, since the financial collapse. Nope, since 2001, since 9/11. Actually, it has been a smaller drop-off than the financial collapse because of the $15 minimum wage, which hasn't even fully kicked in yet. I think it kicks in fully in 2021, but it's ramping its way up right now.
They've even done it slightly smarter than some of the other states. So,
Seattle was really devastated by it.
Have you been to Seattle? It's an expensive place. What'd you say, Whole Foods?
Yeah.
You got to take out a second mortgage to shop at Whole Foods. This is ridiculous. I wanted a thing of kale, not buy a Maserati. It's ridiculous. You gotta. That's a whole 1%er echelon right there to shop in Whole Foods or even live in Seattle.
You feel very fancy when you walk into a Whole Foods. I believe so.
I feel like these people are one bite of granola away from just wasting away.
I shop at Whole Foods, okay?
Of course you do.
Speak of the devil.
Exactly what we're talking about.
Stu.
Yes.
What is this? How little known
yes,
Andrew
I have
Yang?
this is another election situation we have going on. So there's a guy named Andrew Yang. He is currently in the Democratic race and has been running for about a year to be the president of the United States.
Been running for a year?
About a year, yes. And he is like a tech guy. He's depending on what poll you look at.
Okay.
He's at 0% or 1%. Wow. Now, the margin of error could bring him up to about 4, though. So I think that's important to note. He could be something that polls are hiding. He's actually a pretty interesting guy, kind of a tech entrepreneur type of guy. Really, the focus of his campaign is right down Glenn Beck alley with AI, artificial intelligence, as well as that effect on the jobs in the United States, as well as universal basic income, which Glenn would not agree with his solution, but I think Glenn does like the fact that people are actually talking about those issues because they are serious and coming forward. He's a pretty interesting guy, and he was recently on Joe Rogan's podcast, which of course gets you lots of attention. But he's pulled off a really cool thing. He's decided to. He's only raised, I think, he hasn't raised much money at all. He's got, I think, 90,000 people on Twitter, which is a solid following, but not gigantic for a politician. But what he did is he looked at the rules of the debates, and instead of just trying to run a campaign traditionally, he looked at the rules of the debates. And there's one part of the rule to get into the first Democratic debate, which is you have to have 65,000 individual donors. Now, it doesn't matter if they've given you $1. Or if they've given you a lot of money. Now, of course, the big candidates will easily clear that threshold, but the smaller candidates can have no chance at that. It's pretty hard, 65,000. So instead, that's what he's focused on, is getting individual donors. No one's heard of this guy. He's already up at about 50,000 individual donors.
Wow.
So unless the Democrats change the rules on the fly, which I would not be surprised if they do, this guy will be on stage with Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden if he runs, and Beto and all the rest. This guy that nobody really knows, but does seem to be somewhat of a serious person and should be, might be someone who could be listened to. It will be fascinating to see him up there and people like Kirsten Gillibrand making the second stage. Mm-hmm. But it looks like he will get this, and I just love the fact. I love people like that look at the rules, find some little quirk, and just exploit it and get what they want.
This dude's like Gru. He's got all those little minions down there in the basement. He just reproduces them, and they're out there signing stuff and giving him a buck. That's the deal.
I like it.
Stu, you're saying if he's reasonable and serious, I mean, he's not going to get any traction.
Yeah, that's
Not
true.
from
He has no
Democrats.
chance of winning. He's not. I don't think he's socialist enough.
John Hickenlooper will wipe the floor with him.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, it's certainly that's why Sherrod Brown decided not to run.
he's
right?
very
He's
scared of
I'm not crazy enough for this position. I don't think I should do it.
Can you be president of the United States with both the word hick and loop in your name?
John Jacob Jingleheimer Hickenlooper.
All right, back in a minute.
There's a guy in New York that runs in every state that you can run remotely through that doesn't have two candidates.
All right. Over and over again.
In case you have not yet checked out the Blaze TV podcast, I love that we start the show.
You stopped counting us down in the breaks. Let's be honest about it. This is your change, not our change.
I don't count you down during the break.
Someone says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we start.
She can hear it in her ears. She just thinks we. No, I'm not even going to go
later
there.
tonight, Stu and I are going to be at dinner, and all of a sudden we're going to find out we're on camera. So we're having this nice conversation about
kids. If you haven't yet checked out all of the podcasts we have available with Blaze Media, please do so. We've got the Chad Prather Show, Mr. Chad Prather. Check that out wherever you get your podcasts. And we've also got Andrew Heaton.
Something's up with Andrew Heaton, if I can make a quick plug. My guest
please.
today was the author of a book called Raven Rock, How the U.S. Government Plans to Survive Nuclear War While the Rest of Us Die. So if you like Cold War history and stuff about nuclear annihilation and bunkers, this is a great episode.
You know they do if there wasn't this show.
I think there's some overlap
Any
between
Blaze
listeners
subscriber,
here.
I think.
Yeah, the world's ended 12 times already since 80.
And don't forget, if you have not yet already, gone to blazetv.com. We've got an amazing lineup. We've got a promo code for you. You can use promo code NEWS, get $10 off of your subscription. We've also got Mr. Chad Prather on that as well.
Yeah.
Humor me with Chad Prather.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed, but he's kind of funny sometimes.
Provocative.
Is it?
No, that's never been used to describe my show. Not at all.
Well, once. Thanks.
Overtime is coming up next. Stay tuned.
That's when we made that sex tape. I just didn't know.
Yeah, but he didn't count you down. He didn't know you were on camera.